Okay, guys, we're going to be having again coming with us live today, Mr. Maxwell, to share with us the things we need for the tax season that we're currently in. Those who missed it, you're in for a treat today. He will be giving us a refresher, but definitely going in details as to what you need and how to go about it and how to get in contact with him for this tax season. So if you're here in the United States, or if you're even home, but you are going to be filing your taxes and as an international teacher this year, you definitely need to stay tuned to the end, where he's going to be sharing a lot of informative information and also have a question and answer section at the end of the video. So your job right now, all you need to do right now is to go ahead and share this live, share this link so that others can join. Somebody's saying no sound. What's causing that? That's on YouTube. Somebody's saying no sound. Let me see what's happening with my sound. Let's try again. You're not hearing me, Candice? On Facebook, let me know in the comments if you can hear me. If you're on Facebook, if you can hear me. On YouTube, I don't know why you're not hearing. I'm not seeing any issue. Let me try. Candice, are you hearing me now? Kamala, you say you're hearing? I hope that's a yes, you're hearing. And I'm not sure on Facebook if you're hearing in the comment section. Yes, I could. Oh, Candice, you're not hearing. I'm not sure why you're not hearing, but Kamala is saying she's hearing. So hopefully it's not on my end. Hopefully it's not on my end, guys. If you're hearing, just say a yes. Just say yes in the comment section so I know more than one people are hearing and it's not on my end that the volume is messed up. Thank you, Kamala. All right, I'm not seeing from Facebook. If you're hearing, let me know in the comment section below. Yes, I can hear. Okay, good, awesome. All right, good. You had me scared there for a minute. So welcome, guys. Welcome. Please go ahead and put in the comment section where you're watching from. Let us know where you're watching from. I know you are Bluetooth drama. Girl, you got me wondering there what was happening. So let me know in the comment section where you're watching from. We're going to be having Mr. Ryan Maxwell coming to share with us. Sound is clear on Facebook. Awesome. Thank you, Hayford. From Georgia. Yes. Jacksonville. Yes. So guys, it's tax season. As international teachers, when we just got here, a lot of us did not know how to file our taxes. We did not know some of the things or some of the tax exemptions that we are privy to. But, slowly but surely, we started to get that information. Mr. Maxwell came in the late part of 2024 and shared with us, but he wanted to come again and give you a refresher of, what to expect and how the taxing process should go. So without any further ado, go ahead and put in the comment section where you're watching from. Hey, Deanja from Florida, Candice from Raleigh. Thank you guys for joining. Share this link, somebody who's going to be filing their tax as well, so that they also can get this information. All right, we're also live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can watch from any of the platforms. And we're going to just take it straight over to Mr. Maxwell. Before we go, I did share a video last night from Montessori teachers, those who know teachers who are Montessori educators who are interested in getting a teaching job in the United States. I shared a school that's actually sponsoring international teachers' green card if they are Montessori teachers and would like to, get a chance to teach with their school district. You definitely have to check that video out. It was uploaded yesterday. And they are seeking Montessori teachers, and they're sponsoring EB3 visa, which is green card. So if you missed that video, check that out. And again, if you need one-on-one guidance, definitely check out my website, supremacyconnect.com, where you can get guidance. Share my link with your colleagues, and those who are aspiring to teach in the United States, you can also share my YouTube channel with them. Welcome, Ms. Walsh from Virginia. So we're going to welcome Mr. Maxwell so I can close my mouth and we can listen, because we want to get to the meat of the matter, which is the money. All right. So welcome, Mr. Maxwell.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Dr. Britton, for giving me this platform to talk to your subscribers. I'm very excited again to come for a second time. I must be doing something great for you guys to welcome me another second time, because I know your time is very valuable. You don't bring people up twice on your channel, so I must be.
That's not true. That's not true. Yes, my time is valuable, but that twice on the channel, that's not true.
So I really appreciate.
You have invaluable information to share, and we want the teachers to get it. So you're going to be here.
Great. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I want to welcome the new teachers. Happy New Year. I know, we've got some new teachers on here. This is your first time teaching in America. So welcome. For my existing teacher, this will be like a little refresher for you guys. So, it's repetition. The more you hear me speak, then the more you can understand the filing obligation for international teachers, right? Because even for people that are here for a long time, tax is very complicated. So, for me, when I'm learning, repetition, you tell me things like multiple times, then, I get it. But so, if you're in your third and your fourth year, you're still on, this will be good information for you guys. But this presentation is kind of geared towards non-resident who are in their first and second year and third year. But, fourth, fifth, and sixth year, these are valuable information as well. Right. So again, quick background. My name is Ryan Maxwell, originally from Jamaica. Went to school at Glenmuir for all of my Glenmuir people that are out there. Then got a football scholarship. I'm a big football player. Then I went to the University of Tampa, where I played football for them, and got my bachelor's, my master's in accounting. And then I started working, for some CPA firm down in the Tampa Bay area. Got my CPA, which is a certified public accountant here in the US. And then I started my own firm, just helping international teachers navigate this tax treaty, because majority of the people that file taxes here, they do it for resident and US citizens. So I kind of focus mostly on the non-resident side. I do tax return for resident, but majority of the people that I work with are internationals, right? So that's my niche that I kind of focus on, the international. So, you guys are in a good place to kind of learn some international taxes, right? Because there's two rules, right? There's two filers here. You got internationals, non-resident, and then you got the regular US citizens and green card holders. So there's separate laws that's kind of govern those two different filers. And what happened is, because majority of the people that does tax here, if an international person go up to them to do their tax, they just they just do you guys tax as if you're a U.S. citizen and resident. They don't take into consideration that you're international and that you fall under different rules, right? So you got to be careful when you have these people do your taxes. So what I'm gonna do is what I'm trying to accomplish in this live is in the first live we kind of went through some detailed presentation of what required for the filing status, the forms. We look at the W-2 forms. We look at some tax treaty exemption. We have a live that we did probably like a month ago, so you guys can go back and revisit that live if you have wanted to get into a detailed analysis of what international teachers are required to do when it comes tax time. For this live, I wanted to just go over some guidelines or stuff to look for. And then by the way of doing that, I'm gonna touch back on some of the stuff that we went through last month or last year, right? So again, welcome the international teachers. If you're in your first and your second year, I want to welcome you. This is going to be a very exciting time for you in America. You're going to be filing your first tax return, because I know in Jamaica or other places, other countries, they do not have tax returns. So you're coming into a new system, and now all of a sudden you got to file taxes, right? And then people be like, why I got to file taxes? Mainly because that's how the government kind of finances its operation, right? If you need nice roads to drive on, parks, the police officers, the teachers get paid from people paying their taxes. So you got to have a tax system to kind of help the government kind of finance those costs, right? So, all right. So let's jump into the presentation.
Ready? Okay, so I know Mr. Maxwell is saying first and second year teachers. Definitely not just those teachers you're going to be catering to today, right?
No. I'm gonna mix in everyone. Right. I'm gonna mix in everyone. Yes, because I'm gonna try to mix in everyone into the presentation as well.
And also teachers both on J and H-1B visa. Just to clarify.
Yes, international teachers, correct.
All right, yes. So I'm gonna bring it take it back to Mr. Maxwell with his slide, and I'll be here in the background. Guys, you're not on the first screen, but I think that's your first screen. That was tax season guidelines. That's the first one.
Yes, that's my first screen. Correct.
So guys, if you have questions, go ahead and write your questions down, or if you even put them in the comment section, we'll get to them in the Q&A section in the end. But we're going to just turn it over now to Mr. Maxwell.
All right. So these are the guidelines for what you should look out for the upcoming season, right? So the tax season, IRS just issued its the first date to file the taxes. So that's going to be January 27th. So 2 weeks from now, they're going to open up the tax season where tax preparer now can start submitting returns to the Internal Revenue Service, which is the IRS, right? And then the tax season goes from the January 27 all the way to April 15. You have within that period of time to file your taxes, right? If for some reason you don't get your information in time to file within that period, you can always request an extension, but you have to file an extension within that January to April deadline, and you get a 6 months extension to send your form in, which is the deadline is going to be October 15, right? So right now, tax preparers can go ahead and, if you have all of your information, even though the season haven't started yet, the tax preparer can now submit your tax return to the IRS. It's just that it's just going to be in a queue, right? It's just going to be in a queue, and then once January 27 come around, then IRS open up the season, then all of the returns will be going to the IRS. So for most people that already have their W-2, you can start sending that to your tax preparer for them to file your tax return, even though the season haven't opened yet, right? So if you do that, then you're going to be one of the first ones to file on the very first day, which is January 27th, right? And then you get your money real quick and easy. So normally you will get your money roughly 4 to 6 weeks after the IRS accept it, right? You will get your money. If everything goes well, there's no audit, all of your information is submitted correctly, you should get your money within 4 to 6 weeks, right? 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes sooner, sometimes later. And then if you're in different states that has a state income tax, like Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, those states sometimes even pay their refund sooner than the federal, right? So sometimes it's like 2 weeks from whenever you file, you get your state refund. And then some states, it all depends, but roughly, normally states sometimes play quicker than the IRS or the federal government, right? All right. So then, okay, so yeah, so the start of the tax season is this 2 weeks from now, which is January 27th, right? All right. So for my new filers, right, I get this all the time. You gotta prepare to give your tax preparer some sensitive information, right? They're gonna need. I know you were told on the program that never share your social security number or never share certain information, and I get it, right? A lot of scammers are out there, so you want to make sure that the person that is doing your taxes is somebody that you can actually trust, right? But be prepared. You know, if this is your first time, just be prepared that you're gonna need to submit. You're gonna need to give them some sensitive information, right? Your social security number is not the last four. You're gonna need to provide your entire social security number to that tax preparer, because that number has to be on the form. That's the way that the IRS can identify you based on your name and your social security number, right? And then your driver's license or state ID. Some people don't have a driver's license, but you can get a state ID. So they're trying to implement this to crack down on identification theft, right? They want to make sure they match up your driver's license or your state ID with your social security number as well. So that's the reason why sometimes you have to provide your driver's license or your state ID, right? What if you don't have a driver's license or state ID? That's fine. The tax preparer would put in their system that you do not have a driver's license or a state ID, and they will try to verify you some other way, right? And then you'll need to provide your banking information, like your bank name, your routing and account number, because what's going to happen is the tax preparer will put those banking information on the tax form, and then that's where the IRS will send your money. They will direct deposit the money into your account, and you want to do it that way because it's much more faster, right? If they don't do it that way, then the IRS will send you a check, right? And you don't want to do a check because it's just going to take forever. You will get it, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of stuff that can happen with them mailing in your check. You can get lost in the mail or something. Somebody steal your mail or something. So you want to do direct deposit. So you're going to have to provide your banking information to your tax preparer, right? And then you're going to need to provide the W-2. So most of you, in our last session, I did a very intensive explanation of what the W-2 looks like and how it works. So your W-2, again, that's a summary of all of the pay stubs that all of your paychecks, all the money that you earn within that year. So you come in 2024, from your day that you got paid your first paycheck all the way to December, from August all the way to December, all of your paycheck is just summarized, and all of the money that you got and all the taxes that have been taken out, they just kind of summarize it in this W-2, and you're going to receive this. Some people have already started getting their W-2, but for those that haven't got their W-2, you should get it in the 3rd or the 4th week of January. So just look out, probably look in your portal or look in the mail, but you should get your W-2. The deadline and when they're required to submit all W-2 to employees is January 31st. So everyone should get their W-2 before January 31st, right? So once you get once you have your social security number, you provide your driver's license, your banking information, for the teachers that are in the tax exempt country, they're going to need to provide your country. You're going to need to provide the date you came here to your tax preparer. So once you get all that information to the tax preparer, then they're ready to actually file your tax return, right? And again, they can start doing that right now. You don't have to wait until the season start. You can actually provide all that information. And I started setting up all of my new clients from now, right? Because most people that I work with, they want to file on the very first day, right? They do not want to wait. So most of my new clients, I'm already setting up all of my new clients. My existing clients already have all of their information. So the only thing that I'm waiting for them is is a W-2, and they, once they send that over, we're just ready to file, right? All right. So for my teachers, then this third bullet here, teachers from a tax treaty exemption country needs to file a non-resident form, mainly because, again, there's two filers here. You have non-resident and resident and the U.S. citizen. So if you're in your first 2 years here, right, as an international teacher, you're going to be considered a non-resident. And also, if you're from one of those countries where the U.S. have a tax treaty with, you're going to need to file a non-resident tax return in order to take advantage of that treaty exemption. Because, again, the U.S. do not have a tax treaty with its residents and citizens. So if you go ahead and go file on the U.S. and citizen form, you're not going to get that tax treaty exemption that you're entitled to. And the tax treaty exemption is much more favorable, much more beneficial for you to do, because remember, in the tax exemption treaty, all the taxes that you pay for that year, or all the money that's been taken out of or withheld from your paycheck for taxes, because you have the special treatment based on the treaty, you're going to get that back in the form of a refund, right? So you want to make sure that you file on this non-resident form to claim that tax treaty, right? For my teachers that are in their third and their fourth and their fifth year, you're going to file on the regular U.S. citizen form, right? Mainly because you meet what is called the substantial presence test, meaning you've been in the United States for a number of years, and they do a calculation, and they say, okay, even though you're a non-resident on form, on paper, you can file as a regular U.S. citizen and resident. So you guys going to file on the regular U.S. citizen and citizen form. And I get this. This is one of my number one questions that I get all the time. And I feel I get it. I understand where you guys are coming from, but I'm going to address it, right? You got teachers in their first and the second year, and they're coming to me. The very first thing that they're asking me, they're telling me, oh, my friend was able to file for their kid. They either the kid is a U.S. citizen, or the kid is a J2 that has a social, or they got a kid and they're in their first and their second year, and they want to know. The first question is, why can't my friend was able to do it? Why can't I do it, Mr. Maxwell? And the question is, the answer is, your friend was able to do that because they filed on the U.S. citizen form, right? There's no head of soul on the non-resident form, which you're supposed to file on. There's no married filing jointly on that non-resident form. So your friend was only able to do that because they file an incorrect tax return, and they file on the regular U.S. citizen and resident form. So that's the only way they were able to do it. All right. Then another one that I hear all the time again is, Mr. Maxwell, I'm going to school, and can I claim all this credits, my student credits? Can I claim the earned income credits? I got daycare that I'm paying for. Can I daycare costs? And the answer again, if you're in your first 2 years, you're not going to be able to get those benefits if you're in your first 2 years, right? It's only when you switch over after in your third and your fourth year, you're going to be able to benefit from that when you start filing on the regular U.S. citizen and resident and form, all right? And then again, you guys can always go back and revisit our first presentation that we did probably like a month ago. If you go into YouTube and type in J1 and taxes, you're gonna see my presentation, and we talk about this very at length inside of that presentation. All right. All right. So make sure again. So make sure not a important thing is that your tax preparer has to understand again your non-resident status. So make sure it's someone that is doing your tax return, they understand non-resident tax. So that's one of the first questions that you should ask them. Are you familiar with non-resident international teachers taxes, right? Because again, I gotta say this again, most people that does tax here do it for like normal resident and green card holders, right? They don't do non-resident. Non-resident, of the 100% of people that file taxes here, non-resident is probably like 3% or 5% of the people that actually file tax returns. So you got to make sure that a person that you seek out to do your tax return is familiar with the non-resident status, because you're going to get yourself in trouble. I'm telling you, if you go ahead and file on the wrong form, you're going to get yourself in trouble, because what's going to happen is you're going to, in some cases, right? Because everybody's situation is different. In most cases, even if when you have a kid, and you're going to end up getting back more money, right? And then what's going to happen is the IRS eventually at some point is going to audit you. And then you're going to think that everything is all good and merry. You got back $4,000 or $5,000 and you think everything is all good and merry. And then 3-4 years down the line, when you do not have, you spend all that $5,000, you know, you don't have $5,000 anymore. The IRS is going to send you a letter and say, okay, you said you were a green card holder. You said you were a citizen and you're this and you're that. Okay, send me all these information to support whatever you said. And then you can't produce it. And then you spend off all that $5,000 3-4 years ago. And then no, you have to fork out $5,000. And IRS is one of those people that can actually go into your bank account. They do not have to have any special notice or anything. They can just go into your bank account and just take the money from you. So I'm just trying to save you guys the hassle and the headache of you're getting money right now that you probably would have to end up paying back in the future. So it's just best that you just stay in your right status. For the first 2 years, you want to stay in your right status and file on the correct form that you need to file on, right? And you want to produce a good tax return as well, because most teachers here, they're looking to at least stay here. For most people that I talk to, they want to stay here, right? Because they want to stay here. They want to start their family here. Most people want to buy a house here. Most people just want to stay here. So in anything that you do here in America, you have to produce tax return, right? You want to get a mortgage, you have to produce tax return. Your kid is going to school, you have to produce tax return. You're going to anything, you have to produce tax return. And you want to produce a tax return that to those people that's correct, right? You don't want to produce an incorrect tax return. You're going to produce a tax return saying that you're a citizen or you're a green card holder when you're not, right? So you just want to make sure that you file the right form, just to stay in line with everything, right? All right. So then again, we touch on this briefly. You want to make sure that the tax preparer that's filing your tax return is familiar with your country tax treaty rules, because every country that has probably like 60 or 66 or so country has a tax treaty with the United States. You want to make sure that preparer understand the tax treaty between your country, because there's that, because of the special exemption, right? Because not a lot of people is familiar with this rule. So that person have to understand the tax treaty as it relates to Jamaica. If they're doing a Jamaican teacher tax return, they have to understand if it's a Filipinian, then they got to understand if it's an Indian teacher. So they have to understand those rules, because only when they understand those rules are they able to do that tax return correctly, right? Because every country tax treaty is kind of different, different as it relates to with the U.S., right? So you want to make sure that person understands the tax treaty. So two fundamental questions, again, you got to ask whenever you sit down with a tax preparer, H&R Block, or whosoever you decide to go with. Are you familiar with the non-resident international teacher tax rule? Yes, good. Are you familiar with the tax treaty exemption as it relates to my country? Yes. Okay, cool. You get a yes from those two questions, then it's a go ahead with that tax preparer. Okay. All right. All right. So yeah. So then we have some teachers on here, like so like Dr. Britton said, people that are in their fourth and the third year, they feel they're confident in terms of, okay, I think I can do this, right? Because we got some smart teachers here, right? That can actually they filed tax return for like 4 or 5 years. Now they've been studying it, they've been listening to me, they feel like they got some good information. So for those people that think that they can do a tax return by themselves, you just want to make sure that you signed it. Make sure you signed it properly, and make sure your information on there is correct, right? And then if you're working with a tax preparer, you want to make sure that tax preparer actually sign the tax return. Make sure that they date it, and also make sure that you get a copy for yourself, because when I'm working with people for the first time, most people, sometimes I ask them, do you have a copy of your tax return? Because I'm looking to see whether or not it was done correctly. Do you have a copy? And most people don't even have a copy, because the taxpayer sometimes will say, hey, we do your tax return, oh, you get back 500, or you get back 700, or you get back. They didn't even produce a tax return to the people and walk them through as to why they get back 500, or why they get back 1,000, or why they get back such and such, right? So make sure you sign the tax return, and make sure you date it, and make sure you have a copy for yourself. Like I said, you're going to need to produce a tax return in everything that you do. If you're going to the bank for a loan, you're going to need to produce a tax return. Mortgage, again, you're going to need to produce a tax return. So your tax preparer should give you a copy of your tax return, right? So make sure you guys request a copy from them, and you understand exactly what's on your tax return. I think I kind of jump ahead. So yeah, this is the one that I was kind of jump ahead on. So if you're a non-resident, right, and you feel confident in terms of like, okay, I think I can do my tax return, right? I did it for you first year, second year, you think like, okay, maybe I can do this. I'm very smart enough to kind of figure this out. There are certain tax software that does not do non-resident tax return. So automatically, if you go inside of there to do it, it's going to be wrong. So like TurboTax, a lot of my teachers sometimes file on TurboTax, or they do free USA tax. 100% that tax return is going to be wrong, because those software do not do non-resident tax return. They only do it for U.S. citizens and residents. So your tax return is going to be 100% wrong, no, for sure. So when someone comes to me and tell me, Mr. Maxwell, I did it on TurboTax, I know 100% it was done incorrectly. Or they use Free Tax USA, I know 100% it was done incorrectly. So be careful of what tax software you use to do your taxes, because if you're international, you just can't do an international teacher tax return on TurboTax, right? All right, and if you do decide to go ahead and do your tax return, this is what I was trying to get at. You want to make sure that you review it properly. Your name is correct, your social, your address. You want to sign it first before you submit it, because sometimes some people get the forms and they fill out the forms by themselves. They don't use software. They fill out the forms by themselves, and then they forget to sign the form. You want to make sure that your address is social, and you want to make sure that you sign the form before you actually send it off to the IRS, right? And if you're in those states where you have a state tax, you want to make sure that you're sending off 2 tax returns. So you send one to the federal government, and then one to the state. So Florida, Texas, you got a couple of states that do not have a state income tax, right? So Florida again, Texas, Washington, South Dakota, Tennessee, New Hampshire, probably like 7 states or so do not have a state income tax, right? So you only do like one tax return in those states. Like South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, those states have income tax. So you have to do like 2 tax returns in those states. One for the federal, one for the state. And then Ohio, and then like New York, those also have like a city tax. So if I'm doing a tax return for someone that lives in Ohio and New York City, I got to do three tax returns. One for the federal, one for the state, and one for the city. So you got to make sure that you know how much tax returns you need to do, right? All right. And you want to make sure you choose like e-filing. It's just faster and quicker to do it electronically, right? Once you do all of our tax returns here, we do it electronically. We don't do a paper copy. Like again, anything can happen with paper copy, right? You sign the tax return, you mail it in, it can get lost in the mail. It takes forever to the IRS to go through the mails and process those paper copies. So if your tax preparer offer e-filing, you want to make sure that you do e-filing. It's just more faster for them for the IRS for IRS to get it and for IRS to process it. You just want to do e-filing, right? Again, we mentioned this earlier, direct deposit, right? You want to do direct deposit, right? Because it's much more easier, faster for the money to just log right into your deposit, right into your account, right? And then you want to file as soon as possible, right? As soon as you get your information, because what happened is there's a lot of identification theft going on. So people sometimes steal your identity and file a tax return in your name, and then you end up filing, and then you get a rejection. If you try to e-file it, you will get a rejection. And then no, you would have to do a paper copy, and then it takes forever. Then you would have to go to the IRS to try to sort out stuff and let them know that somebody did a tax return incorrectly. So as soon as you get all of your information, you want to file a tax return, because people steal people's identity all the time and file a tax return around these times to get back a refund. So you just want to file early, right? And just get it over with and get your money, right? Okay, so those are some highlights, some guidelines to kind of guide you through the tax process, the filing season. I'm here to answer questions. We're here to kind of answer questions. My number here is 813-449-0118. And then I got my email address if you want to email me or WhatsApp me. But that was just a quick overview of what expected for this filing season. And I'm gonna go into some questions. And then I know someone is gonna ask again if whether or not they can claim their daughter or dependent if they're in their first 2 years. And again, the answer is no. There are certain things that you can't do as a non-resident, right? You gotta understand that there's certain things that you cannot do as a non-resident versus what you can do as a resident and green card holder. I know that question is probably gonna come up, so I'm trying to answer that because I'm here sometimes and I'm taking questions from people all over, like 10 times out of the day. I gotta answer that question because people want to claim their child. My number one question that I gotta answer all the time, right? Anyway, so yeah, Dr. Britton. So that's it. I will, if anyone have any questions, I would like to touch on certain things if you think that I kind of go over certain things.
All right. So the first question, I'm just gonna share the questions on the screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Can you see the question?
Not yet. I'm not seeing. Can you read it out? Because I'm not seeing. I'm just seeing my screen.
It says how to do back tax.
Yeah. So okay. So I didn't touch on the amended tax return, right? So I do a lot of amended tax returns because, like, when people are coming to me for the first time, somebody mess up their tax return and then I have to go back and fix it. It's called amended tax return, right? So all is not lost, right? amended tax return can be done for a number of reasons, mainly because they filed on the wrong form or they didn't claim the tax exemption treaty that you qualify for. You have you have the wrong filing status. There's so many stuff that can go wrong with a tax return. So then you can do an amended tax return to kind of fix the issue. But I always tell people amended tax return just takes forever, right? It takes forever to get processed by the IRS. Technically, it should take like 16 to 8 to 20 weeks to get processed, but it takes several months to get processed. But yes, you can do back taxes. I don't know if you mean back taxes by in that you did not file, or back taxes in terms of fixing whatever year messed up. But you can also go back. You can go back and do taxes for 3 prior years. So now that we're in 2024, you can go back as far as 2022 to do your taxes and get back a refund if you did not file. And also, if you mess up the 2022, 2023, and 2024, you can do an amended tax return to get back the taxes to get back the refund that you didn't get back in those years.
Okay, so the next question was, can I file I-10 for my 2 kids? I'm a J1 visa holder.
Yes, you can file for an I-10 for your kids. I-10 is just a substitute for your social security number. So for people that don't qualify for social security number, you can request what is called I-10. It's a taxpayer number, right? And it's kind of limited in scope of what it can do versus a social security number. But yes, you can file for an I-10 for your kids.
Asking, I got my state refund, but not the federal. Do you think the tax preparer made a mistake? And I'm going to ask, is that for last tax season, Candice? Because I don't think it's this one.
So not necessarily, it's not necessarily that they made a mistake. If you got one versus the other, not necessarily. I wouldn't say that they make a mistake. It's just that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes it just... So what you can do, Candice, you can track your refund. The IRS, on the IRS website, you can actually track your refund. You can go to irs.gov and then look for where's my refund. And then you enter like the social, your filing status, the year that you filed a tax return, and the amount. And it will tell you whether or not they receive it, right? And you can do the same thing for the state as well. So the fact that you got your state refund, it does not say that the tax return was done incorrectly or not. The only way that I would know, or anyone would know, if the tax return was done incorrectly is by looking at that tax form, right? But if you don't receive the refund, doesn't mean that it was done incorrectly. It just could be that maybe the IRS haven't gotten to it yet, even though it's been a long time. Or maybe they're missing something, or maybe they send you a letter or something, but I wouldn't know whether or not it was done incorrectly until I'm looking at that tax form.
So I did not realize, Mr. Maxwell, that these they're done separately. I thought once your tax is filed, once they look at your file, they're looking at both your federal and state tax. I didn't know it was 2 separate thing that they're
these are two different. Yeah, these are 2 different jurisdictions. So your tax preparer does, if you're in those state that has a state income tax, your tax preparer do 2 tax return, and there's 2 different jurisdictions. So the IRS is separately from the state. The IRS, the 1040 IRS tax return that you file, that goes to the IRS, and then there's a state tax return that you file that goes to the separate state. So those are 2 different tax paying entity, and they do not talk to each other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now, Candice says you're learning. Go ahead and reach out or whatever. Or
yeah, so Candice, so the first thing I would probably do is, again, you can track it, right? Go to the irs.gov and try to find out whether or not they receive it. You can go on irs.gov, you're going to see where it says, where's my refund? And you can put in your credentials, and you're going to see whether or not what stage is in. And then you call them, but it just takes forever to get someone on the phone. But try to see if you can call the IRS to see if they received the tax return.
All right, next question says, does H-1B Jamaican teachers get tax exemption?
Yes. So this is a common question as well, and this is a very misunderstood one as well. So this is the tax treaty rule is a teacher rule. It's a profession rule. It's not a visa rule, right? So yes, to your question.
So it's specifically for teachers, not
Yes.
other. So if somebody else from Jamaica come to the
Correct.
US on an H-1B visa,
Right.
they're
Right.
not going to be
Correct. So if you come here on an H-1B, on a say you're a farmer, or you're a mechanic, or you're a chef, or no, it's not a visa stuff. It's a profession, international J1 teacher, H-1B teacher. It's a teacher rules. It's an incentive to teachers.
So specifically for teachers.
Correct.
All right. You're welcome, Candice. The next question is, what tax website do I use as a non-resident?
I think they got this print tax out there that I think you have to pay for it though. So these non-resident website, that I don't think they're free. I think Sprint Tax, you have to pay to use a Sprint Tax website. They got a lot of useful information. I think that's the one that most other teachers sometimes they do mention that they use. Sprint Tax.
Okay. All right, so the next question is, I'm a J1 visa teacher, started working in August 2024. How do I file my tax this year?
How do you file your taxes? Yeah, so you're required again to file a tax return for 2024. Even though you came in the middle of the year. How do you file your taxes? You're just going to file it as a non-resident if that's what you're asking, because you're a J1 teacher in the first year, you're going to be a non-resident. You have a filing obligation starting this January all the way to April. You will just file normally as a non-resident like all the other people that are in their first and second year.
Okay. So, and then Ebenezer, if you don't have a tax preparer, you can reach out to Maxwell and, get more details. His details are on the screen. Raquel is saying, the person that filed for me last year said I don't get it. So I guess she's a H-1B visa holder, and the person who filed her
okay. Well,
so she wants to know. Yes. She wants to know how to rectify this.
Well, I'm not sure why the person told you didn't get it or you didn't qualify for it. That's between, the person. I'm not sure why they told you that. So we can do an amended tax return for you. That you didn't get it. We can do an amended tax return for you to try to get that money that you're entitled to.
All right. Is it possible to include my kids with ITIN in my tax exemption in my second year as a J1 holder?
Again, getting the ITIN in your first and your second year, you're not going to be able to put it on the tax return because you're going to be a non-resident. And as a non-resident cannot file head of household or married filing jointly. In your third and your fourth year, yes, you can put, once you get the ITIN, you can put the kids on your tax return. Make sense?
All right, so the next question is, can a J2 dependent with EAD and working as a teacher get a tax refund?
What's the EAD again?
Work permit.
Gotcha. So it's okay. So they're working. The dependent is working. Yeah. So yeah, if they're working and they're earning money, then they have a tax filing obligation.
Yeah, they definitely need to file. They definitely need to file, but but they are not going to be exempt from taxes. Does that
No,
exemption apply for
no. Again,
dependents?
remember we touched this. Yes, no. So J2 dependents, you're not here as a teacher, right? So there's no tax exemption for you. You have to file a normal tax return and pay the taxes as a normal person. And so there's no exemption, meaning you not whatever taxes you pay, you're just not going to get it back. You have to pay the taxes associated with whatever income you make. And then if you overpay on your taxes, then you get back a refund. And if you underpay, then you'll get your you have to pay the government.
Good. I think that was a good question. Everybody has to file a tax basically, and it doesn't matter what visa you're on, as long as you're getting a salary, you have to file taxes. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Everyone has to, especially non-resident, every non-resident has to file a tax return. Even if you do not have income, you have to file a tax return to tell the IRS that you're here, not doing anything. I'm not making any money, but here's this form, 8843 form that shows them that you're here, but you're exempt from filing the actual tax return. But I have to file this other form to let them know that you're here.
All right, good. Harvey's asking, how do I retrieve my AGI? I'm not sure what is AGI.
AGI is adjusted gross income. So you can request a tax transcript from the IRS that shows you your AGI.
And you already answered that one?
Yes. The AGI is adjusted gross income.
Okay.
And that's a number that's on your tax return. It's called adjusted gross income. It's a number that you can find on your tax return, and you can request that from the IRS as well by the way of a transcript.
Okay. All right. And Khadija is asking, what are the tax guidelines for a J1 teacher who is now on H1B?
Okay. All right. So depends, right? So when you're on a J1, right, year 1 or year 2, I'm not sure which year you switch over to be H1B, but then you're gonna use up your 2-year exemption from being a J1. No, you're a H1B. No, you become a regular person and you just file a regular tax return as a normal U.S. citizen and resident.
Okay. So once the person did their first 2 years on J and already claimed their exemption, they cannot get that exemption again on H1B.
Right. It's a one-time thing. Correct.
Good. All right. I hope that answered your question, Khadija. All right. The next one says, I'm a J1 teacher in my 3rd year with my kids. How do I file my tax?
Okay. All right. So this one, again, in your 1st and your 2nd year, nothing with the kids. In your 3rd year, mainly because, all right, so what's going to happen if you're in your 3rd year? So for instance, you come here in, say you come here in 2022, August, right? If you come here in 2022, August, technically for 2022, you're going to come here 2022, August all the way to December, you're going to be definitely considered a non-resident for that year, right? In 2023, again, you're still going to be considered a non-resident for 2023, because that's 17 months since you've been here. In 2024, it's a little bit more tricky now, right? Because you already used up your 5 months of exemption in 2022. You use up another 12 months of exemption in 2023. So then technically you have like another 7 months of exemption in 2024, right? So if you have a kid and you want to file with your kid and claim that and to claim the exemption, you cannot file with the kid to claim the exemption, because in order for you to file to claim the exemption, you have to file on the non-resident form. And if you file on the non-resident form, there's not going to be a head of household or a married filing jointly on the non-resident form, right? So you wouldn't be able to utilize your 7-month exemption that you're entitled to if you're trying to file with the kid, right? You're going to be in a situation where you're going to be in the middle of whether or not you meet the substantial presence test versus if you don't. We'd have to do the calculation to see whether or not you meet it to file as a resident versus a non-resident. in the third year. It's just a little bit tricky. But most people in their third year, they just file as a non-resident, mainly because they still has that 7 month of exemption that they can utilize. Hopefully that answers your question. That wasn't always hopefully I don't confuse it too much.
Okay. Keith, I think we already talked about this. So the tax treaty is a one-off, meaning if I get the treaty in J1 and I switch to H1, can I apply the treaty seeing that my visa status changed? And we just discussed that with
right. No, Miss Benjamin, it's gonna be just a one-time. No, so again, it depends. And again, if but for Jamaicans, for sure, this is a one-time stuff. But for different countries, it might be different, right? But for most countries, it's a one-time exemption. They might have some exception out there for different countries, but for the most countries that I work with, it's just a one-time thing.
All right, good. So I didn't have a social security number when I just started, so they were using a dummy SSN for me on file. CMS didn't update my SSN until 2 months ago. Will this affect my taxes?
Okay. Know that you have a new, all right. So know that you have a new updated social security number. The IRS should have that updated social security number as well. So you shouldn't have any problem submitting your tax return. But if you do have problems submitting your tax return, then you have to do a paper copy, right? It's just you once you put your correct tax return on the form, and the tax preparer is trying to e-file it, if it does not go through electronically, or for some reason it doesn't go through electronically because of the social security number, and you know that the social security number is correct, then you'd have to just do a paper copy, right? So all is not lost. Just want to make sure that you have the right social on there, and either you do it electronically or you can do a paper copy.
All right. When are we supposed to file for tax refund? I'm H1 visa holder.
So the season again starts in January 27th is when the season starts. This is the date that the IRS is going to open the season and to start accepting tax return. However, most tax preparer right now is actually filing tax return. They're just in the queue pretty much until when the 27 rolled up. Everything that's in the queue is just going to be flowing to the IRS. So you can actually start filing your tax return right now. It's just that the IRS is not going to receive it until the 27th of this month.
All right. Are you seeing the questions now, Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, I'm seeing the questions.
All right. So Miss Edwards Brown is asking, she just wants to be clear. If she's in her third year and, can she file for her kids with SSN?
So Miss Brown, we'd have to look at the days that you're here in 2022 and 2023 and 2024 and determine whether or not you meet the substantial presence test. If you meet the substantial presence test, then you become a tax resident for filing purposes. And then if you meet that substantial presence test, then you can claim the kid and do all of the regular stuff that U.S. citizen does. If you do not meet the substantial presence test, because some people sometimes in their third year does not meet that test, then you have to file as a non-resident. And if you file as a non-resident, then you cannot claim the kid. Okay. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So it depends on whether or not you meet the substantial presence test in your third year.
All right. So Harvey, you're seeing Harvey's question?
Does filing on the resident form mail gets you less refund than filing on the yeah. No, this question, everyone's situation is different. Is not one form get you back more than one form does get you back form. The question should be, which one is the correct tax return to file, right? Whether or not you get back $10,000 versus $100 shouldn't be your main concern. Your main concern from your tax preparer is to make sure that they file a correct tax return. You get what I'm saying? So I'm not sure, you're trying to get back the biggest refund by filing on the wrong. If you're trying to get back the biggest refund by filing on the wrong form, that's not a good idea, because eventually that's what's going to get caught up. You're going to get caught up. IRS is going to get caught up with you, and you have to pay back all of that money. So your question should be which form you need to file on, and you want to make sure that you file the correct tax return.
All right, next question.
Did you just say J1 in the first year cannot file married filing jointly? Yes, I just said that. If so, my tax preparer entered mine that way. I had a raised eyebrow because hubby didn't work in that period. So yes, again, J1 cannot file married filing jointly. The only reason why they were able to do that was because they filed on the U.S. and citizen, the U.S. citizen green card holder form, right? That's the reason why you were able to file married filing jointly, because you filed on the wrong form.
So let me ask a question. If they file on the wrong form for a J1, can you get that tax exemption on that form?
Right. That's what. Yes. So that's what I was saying. All right. No, you cannot, because the U.S. on the U.S. form, the regular U.S. citizens and green card old form, the U.S. does not have a tax treaty between its citizens and residents. So you're not going to get the tax exemption treaty on that form. You got to file on the non-resident form to get the tax treaty exemption, because the U.S. only have tax treaties with its non-residents. It does not have it with its residents and citizens. So you're not going to get it on there. So you're going to end up missing out by filing on the wrong form. You're going to end up missing out on the tax treaty exemption, and you're also going to end up filing a wrong form, right? If you file on the U.S. citizens and green card holder form. Okay.
Next question.
No, so unfortunately, some of the African countries do not have a tax treaty with the U.S., right? So your question, does the treaty include Nigeria? So unfortunately, again, for some African countries, and I don't think Nigeria is one of them. So yeah, unfortunately, the U.S. does not have a tax treaty with.
Where can they check to see which countries?
So if you want to check, you can go to the irs.gov, right, and type in tax treaty countries, and you should see a publication come up with all of the countries with the IRS have tax treaty with.
Okay. All right, next question.
Someone filed for me last year. Can they use my information to file this year without my consent? No, they're not supposed to, right? That's illegal. That's unethical to do. But they can go ahead and do it, but they're not supposed to do that. They're not supposed. That's illegal for them to do. So, yeah, they got all the information to do it. What I'm getting at, right? But it's illegal for them to do that.
It's illegal unless you give them permission to go ahead and file my taxes again this year.
Yes, correct. It's illegal for them to go do it without your consent. Yeah.
Okay, next question.
All right. So what is the benefit of the tax treaty exemption? Again, the tax treaty exemption. All right. Exemption meaning you're exempt from tax. So it's a rule that says if you're a teacher and you come here to work in the United States, for the first 2 years, you're tax exempt, meaning for the first 2 years, whatever tax is being taken out of your paycheck by the district and sent it to the IRS or sending it to the state, you should get a full refund for those 2 taxes. So that's what the tax benefit is. So if you notice on your paycheck, tax has been taken out, which is fine. So all you got to do at tax return time is to file this form to tell the IRS, there's a special treatment between my country and the United States. Can you please refund me whatever tax the district sent to you? Also to the state, there's a special treatment between my country and the United States. Can you please send me whatever taxes that the district sent to you? That's it. That's what the tax treaty is all about.
Right. And that's for the first 2 years, whether you're on J1 or H1B.
Correct.
Next question.
All right. I am a J1 in my 4th year. However, I have never filed for my daughter, who is a J2. So my understanding is now, can I file as a U.S. resident, regular resident since I'm in my 4th year? Correct. Yes. So now that you're in your 4th year, you're a regular person now. You can do all the good stuff, all of the stuff that you fantasize of doing in your first 2 years. No, you can actually do them now. You can go filing jointly. You can go ahead and claim your daughter. You're going to school. You can claim student credit. You buy a house. You can the property taxes. You make contribution. No, you can do all of the stuff that normal resident and citizen does now. Now that you're in your 4th year.
All right, I think that's the last question. I think
Okay.
that's the last question. So we're going to wrap up. Mr. Maxwell, if you have any final words, you can go on with that. I'm not seeing any more questions. So we can just wrap up now because there's no other questions.
Okay. Yeah. So just to wrap up, I want to again thank Dr. Britton for giving me this platform again. Second time to come and talk to your subscribers again. All right, guys. So again, I want to welcome the new teachers, right? Most teachers sometimes they're in their first and their second year. I want to welcome you guys again to the United States. Really appreciated the job that you guys are doing, helping out and teaching. Tax again can be very daunting, right? It can be very tricky, even for people that hear and file several times. 5, 6 seasons they've been filing their taxes and they're comfortable. It still can be overwhelming to get your taxes done. So you want to make sure that the person that's doing your tax return is familiarized with your situation, right? They understand that you're a non-resident. They understand the tax treaty. They understand your financial situation, right? So you want to make sure you're getting it done by the pros that understand these rules, right? And if you need our help, we're setting up all of our new clients now, right? So all of our new clients, we're kind of setting them up right now, and we're trying to get them in our system. So when the 27 come, we're just filing tax returns. We're just filing tax returns so you guys can get your tax return, your refund within 6 or 4 weeks from when we filed it, right? So again, first filing season should be an exciting time for you guys. If you guys have questions, you can always reach out. You have my number, you have my email. And so you can always reach out if you have questions. I'm going to be taking questions up until it's time to get filing, right? Because when tax season starts, it's just going to be crazy. I'm actually doing the work itself. I'm actually preparing taxes. I'm actually researching tax treaty rules. So now is the time. I got another couple of weeks or so. Now is the time for you guys to get your free consultation. Now is the time for you guys to get your free consultation and ask all the questions that you need to ask, right?
Yes, free consultation.
Complimentary of Dr. Britton. So, ask all your questions so we can get those out of the way.
We have 2 more questions. Mikhail is asking, I'm a J1 teacher on second year. Can I file for my kids this tax season?
Okay, again, Miguel, maybe you kind of run late to the live, but again, if you're in your first year, in your second year, you're not gonna be able to do that until you meet the substantial presence test.
Mm-hmm. All right, that was it. I think it was 2. She was just saying you enlightened her to get an idea of why she didn't get her tax. But yeah, that's it. All right, guys, thanks for joining. I don't know if Mr. Maxwell has any final words, but let me go ahead and thank you for joining. Go ahead and share this link with, a J1 teacher who may be here and need this information. Share the link. If you have not subscribed to this channel as yet, go ahead and subscribe. Turn the notification bells on. Let others who are interested in teaching in the United States know about this platform, so they too can get the informative information that you guys have been getting. Paula, Is a W-2 enough to file? Do you still need to mention to your tax person about the tax treaty? Yeah.
Yes. You need to mention to that every. That's the first question you need to.
Right.
That
Yeah,
the
that
first
means
thing
she
you
missed the
first.
first part of the live. Yes.
Mm.
There are a few questions that Mr. Maxwell said you definitely need to ask your preparer before you start the process. All right, Mr. Maxwell, over to you, and we're going to wrap up.
Yeah, again, like I said, I want to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to your subscribers. Guys, if you have questions, you can also reach out to me. I have my number, 813-449-0118, or you can email me. Let me know if you have any questions. I think that's it. Thank you.
One
Appreciate it.
last question that's going to be very important. What is the cost?
Oh, so for teachers that are on this live, right? Because you're tuning into this live, it's going to be $130 for international teachers, right? So yeah, just very economical. So I don't kill you guys. Like, you got other people that charge you based on how much you're getting back. I don't do that. You're coming into a new country. You guys are, not making a lot of money, and you're trying to make ends meet. So, I charge it based on the time that it takes me. And I know exactly when you have a W-2, I know exactly how long it's going to take me to do that tax return. So I just charge $130 for if you're in your first, second, and your third year. When you're in your fourth and your fifth year and sixth, it's going to be different because they start switching over to the regular US citizen form, and then it can get complicated over there because depending on your situation, right? But if you're in your first, third year, it's just 130 for you guys. I don't charge you based on how much you're getting back, right? So yeah.
All right. So make sure to mention that you saw him on Kicking with Dr. Britton and get your taxes done. It's time to, make sure you're doing things right. I know some people do it on their own, but as I always say, I want a professional to do mine because I want to make sure all my I's are dotted and all my T's are crossed. Mr. Maxwell assisted me last year in filing my tax return, and it was good. Thank you for that, Peng.
Thank you, Peng.
What about a J2 with EAD? How would that person file? That person, go ahead, Mr. Maxwell. I think that same J2 person wants to find out how they would file.
Yeah, so if the J2 is working and they have taxable income, right, you have to file a normal tax return. Everyone that has a tax, all international people has to file a tax return, regardless of if you have income or not. But the J2 with the income is going to file the tax return. Would have to calculate what the taxes pertaining to that income, and if they overpay, they get back a refund. If they underpay, they owe taxes. They will file a normal tax return.
All right. Well, that's it, guys.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Yes. I really appreciate it again for